This is Iowa State wide receiver Jaylin Noel.
He was a riser throughout the entire process, and I think he's going to end up somewhere in the second round here. A vertical slot player, 4.39 time speed, 41.5 inch vertical. He flies down the seam. That's like his absolute best trait. Very acrobatic catches, and I think that's going to be the hard part as we transition to the NFL. Is he small or is he survivable small? He's 5'10", 194, and I just thought there was many plays where he would be playing bigger than his size way down the field. So I think he's best in a downfield play action offense. I think he's going to be a very fun secondary option. I don't think he can be a number one, but there's enough juice on tape to me that I would be pretty interested if he turns into my number two or number three wide receiver.
Yeah, Iowa State had a legit wide receiver room, which you don't see across college football. One big guy that we already have a video on, Jane Higgins, and then one small guy who got a whole bunch of the movement stuff and the slot stuff. I thought Noel or Noel, however we're going to pronounce it during this video, works really nicely in like spaces and cavities when it is zone coverage. He turns his head as soon as he hits that space in the open zone. And if you all want to check out one game for him, there's a number of them, but the Iowa one really stood out to me for like two routes specifically. He had this filthy release on second and medium, and then an off-frame catch to convert the first down. And then on the 75-yard touchdown, you see him almost weave underneath the first linebacker in his path, and then turns the safety around at full speed for the long score. He's certainly not a perfect prospect. And I have one major flaw I do want to talk about, but there is a lot to like about Jaylin Noel when maybe in October, November, December, he likely wasn't considered a second round pick by the public.
Yeah, definitely. So the combine was definitely very nice for him. I think aside from just his straight line speed, I thought his route running was pretty good. There were some reps where he would snap things off and he can like turn on a dime. And I thought that was in conjunction with the speed, left some corners pretty fearful. I think that his best route is just those big seam routes, those big post routes. And what's interesting about him, he played in the slot on 60% of his snaps. He was definitely used in motion. I like all that stuff. There was definitely many reps where he was set up to win. But I don't think that he's just a slot only player. I do think there's a chance that he can survive in two wide receiver sets and play a little bit of the flanker role, just because I thought that his route running was good enough to keep defenders off of him. And he's also a little bit denser, 5'10", 194. It's not like some of these like Tutu Atwell types where they're 170, 180 pounds. He's 194 pounds out there. And I think that there's a chance that he can be more than just like this manufactured slot player. I do think there's a chance he can actually survive in two wide receiver sets.
Yeah, just some stats that matter. 77th percentile athleticism, like you said, 4.39, 40 with a 1.52 10-yard split, 96th percentile jumps, 73rd percentile agilities. I mean, he did everything. He even threw on 23 reps on the bench press. He does turn 23 in September. And like you said, 5'10", 194. Over the course of his 4-year career with the Cyclones, 73% slot player. And then this past year, he caught 82 of 119 targets out of the slot. But his ADOT was 11.4. The name that actually came to mind with that, like the vertical slot mentality, was Christian Kirk when I kept going back with Jaylin Noel. And I agree with you on the downfield stuff, like the multi-breaking routes. He almost gains steam and gains speed, where a lot of other receivers, that's where the corners and everyone try to catch up when they're kind of turning those corners. To me, some of his best routes too were the comebacks and the curl routes and the out routes. Like when you see him sink his hips and sink his head on those, it's really fluid and he really breaks it off. Sometimes a couple extra steps here and there, but that's not really a big deal. And yeah, 55 targets this past season, 10 plus yards down the field. Again, considering he played out of the slot around 70% of the time.
Yeah, Christian Kirk's definitely one of my comps. The other one that came to mind is Tyler Lockett. And I think like the one thing that they're similar is
no yak.
Noel just, well, there's that, but also the just winning like down the field acrobatic catches. Like there's elements that Tyler Lockett was able to do that. And I think that Jaylin Noel absolutely had that. He took some major shots where the safety on the other side of the field was crashing in on him on these big post routes. And he would go up there and snag the ball. And you've seen Tyler Lockett be able to do that specifically. So that's the mold: vertical slot wide receivers who can survive in two wide receiver sets. It's not their best, but I do think that he can snap off, turn on those out routes, those comeback routes that you mentioned. I think all of that stuff is good. So really just comes down to, I don't think that he's like the Wes Welker make you miss shaky guy underneath yards after the catch. You don't see a lot of that on tape. Maybe that's just because he was so good down the field and that they had Jaden Higgins to kind of run the in-breaking routes, but that's like something that you're gonna have to project. To me, that's gonna keep him out of the first round conversation for me. So I like him in round two. I like him as my number two wide receiver, maybe number three. But it's a profile that I really started to enjoy as I watched all the games.
And they did manufacture some stuff for him. They would try to manufacture space for him on top of it, where they would run a vertical route outside of him and he would just do this quick outbreaker to give him, a natural rub or natural space in
Hmm.
the outside. There were numerous plays where they lined him up out of the backfield and he would either run routes out of there or motion him out of the backfield. And then he'd be one-on-one versus an off coverage safety and have a ton of room. So yeah, it wasn't just like we're going to leave you stationary. They definitely
Hmm.
understood that, hey, it's probably best if we get this guy some free room to run into at the exact same time. I mean, it was similar to like Amon-Ra St. Brown and that type of stuff, how Ben Johnson utilized him from a couple different alignments and some natural rub. I don't think that he has the same play strength as someone like ARSB. There were multiple times where I felt like just he got physically overpowered in a few slots. And to be honest, his yak numbers, his missed tackle force numbers are really bad. To me, does not have the awareness, the running back like mentality with the ball in his hands. He really didn't create much yak again on 0 to 19 yard targets. That was at 2.8 yards per reception. He forced just 3 missed tackles this past year and a combined 7 over the last 2 years. And again, just totally 4.2 yak per reception last year. It was better in
Hmm.
2023. That's why I think more so he's going to be a more vertical player than let's get the ball in his hands early and hope he makes his one man miss. And that's how we create explosive.
Yeah, we see it the same exact way, and it is a harder to pick up yards after the catch when your A dot is down the field. So, and I saw the same
But I
thing. Like
even
some of
mean
those
like the
out.
early stuff. I didn't see
Mhm.
him make people miss
Right.
early,
Yeah, he's not like dramatically shifty, like the classic like little slot wide
but he is
receivers. I think he's
fast.
a better route runner. Uh, yeah, he's definitely fast. He's a better route runner than I think a lot of slot wide receivers, and he can run the full route tree, including all the deep stuff. And I thought that once he got his speed going, he was a complete menace against zone coverage down the field too. So Tyler Lockett, Christian Kirk, those are pretty big comparisons. Like those are very valuable, highly
Totally.
paid, long term NFL starters. So I see him as an early round two player. And we'll see where he goes in the draft. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I could see round 2. Again, he might not have been on the top of everyone's mind heading into this process, so we'll see how much he can climb. But yeah, round 2 makes a whole bunch of sense. If he has Christian Kirk's career, like that's amazing.
Hmm.
Even some of the
Hmm.
movements and the catches that he made and how he caught them were like Golden Tate-ish to me too.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's on that spectrum that you're talking about with the Kirk, Lockett, Golden Tate, all that kind. Those are really fun types of players, and I'm sure
Hmm.
we'll have a wide receiver prospect ranking show at some point because I'll be interested to see where you rank him in comparison to Luther Burden. Yeah, I can tell. Interesting. All right, go and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Leave a thumbs up. Be sure to check out the rest of our prospect profiles. Plus, we've got tons of mock drafts in your direction too. So we'll see you in the next one.